A 6-year-old boy walked out of his school on a Tuesday afternoon to grab a toy from home. He never came back. 5 days later, deep in a forest outside of town, woodcutters found a child's body. The condition was unlike anything the investigators had ever seen. His father identified him by a single birthmark on his back. The answer begins in 1992, in a quiet beach town on the coast of southern Brazil, where everyone knew everyone, and nothing like this was ever supposed to happen. Guaratuba is a quiet beach town on the coast of Paraná in southern Brazil. It's the kind of place where the mayor's family and the schoolteacher's family shop at the same market, where a child can walk a few blocks home alone and no one thinks twice about it. Evandro Ramos Caetano was 6 years old. On the afternoon of April 6th, he left the school where his mother worked to walk home and pick up a toy. It was a Tuesday. It was completely ordinary, and he was never seen alive again. 5 days later, in a thicket outside of town, workers cutting wood found what was left of a child. His father identified him by a single birthmark on his back, because there was almost nothing else left to identify. Families were scared. The community was on edge. And when Evandro's body was found, that fear turned into something far more dangerous than grief. It turned into a desperate need for answers, any answers, and that desperation was about to be exploited. The initial investigation was handled by a civil police unit called the Grupo Tigre. They worked methodically, gathering evidence, running forensic tests. But methodical wasn't fast enough for a town that was grieving and furious. Enter Diogenes Caetano, Evandro's cousin, a former investigator, and a man with a very specific theory about who was responsible. Diogenes had a long history of political conflict with the town's most powerful family, the Abages. Aldo Abagi was the mayor. His wife, Selena, was widely considered the real force behind the administration. Their daughter, Beatriz, was a young woman in her 20s. Diogenes went to the state prosecutor's office with his own private investigation. His theory: Evandro had been taken for a ritual sacrifice, ordered by the Abage women, and performed by a recently arrived spiritual practitioner named Osvaldo Marcenero. Osvaldo, he claimed, had already predicted a tragedy. He had brought Evandro's relatives dangerously close to where the body would later be found. It sounds almost impossible to take seriously, but in 1992, Brazil, with a media landscape hungry for dramatic stories, the idea of satanic rituals had enormous cultural traction. A popular TV miniseries called Island of Witches had recently aired, and the public imagination was already primed. The state government pulled the Grupo Tigre off the case. In their place came the Grupo Águia, the military police's intelligence division. Their investigation took 3 weeks. 3 weeks, and it ended with 7 arrests. But here's the part that changes everything. All 7 of them confessed. On tape, in detail. Selena confessed. Beatrice confessed. Osvaldo confessed. They described the child being taken, the location, the specific details of what happened. The town erupted. The case was closed. If this case is hitting you the way it should, leave a like before we continue. It tells me to keep digging into the cases nobody else covers. None of the confessions made sense. Let's talk about what actually happened inside those interrogation rooms, because once you understand that, everything that followed looks completely different. The Grupo Aguia operated outside normal civilian oversight. They brought the suspects to isolated locations, including, according to the accused, a property that had once belonged to a South American dictator, then being used as a federal police base. What the suspects described in later testimony was a systematic process of coercion designed to produce specific answers. On the tapes themselves, investigators later noted something deeply suspicious. The questions already contained the answers. These weren't investigative questions. They were instructions. And there was a timing problem that no one could explain. On one of the tapes, a suspect appears to be speaking with the Abagi women, but official records placed him in a completely different city at the exact moment they were being arrested. The blood found at the sawmill did not match the victim's blood type. The key eyewitness later said he had received threats to maintain his story. The defense had enough. The trial of Selena and Beatriz Abage began in 1998, 6 years after the arrests. It would last 34 days. In 1998, after 34 days of trial, the verdict came in. Selena and Beatriz Abage were acquitted by a vote of 5-2. The reason? The defense had raised enough doubt about whether the body found in the forest was even the missing boy. But the case wasn't over. To settle the question of identity once and for all, Brazil performed its first ever forensic DNA test, specifically for this case. The result was unambiguous. New trials followed. Some were convicted, some were acquitted. The case stretched across nearly 2 decades. In 2019, an investigative journalist came into possession of something that had never been entered into the official case file: the original unedited audio recordings from the night of the interrogations. July 1st, 1992. What's on those tapes is difficult to listen to. You can hear screaming. You can hear someone being silenced mid-sentence. You can hear the interrogators continuing. Anyway, I am making this up. I am making all of this up. 7 people were convicted. The state called it justice. But if those confessions were manufactured, if everything that followed was built on forced testimony, then the question of who was truly responsible for what happened in April 1992 was never seriously investigated, and whoever did it may have walked free this entire time. Episode 2 drops next Friday. If you want to know what is on those tapes, subscribe. And if this case stayed with you, you know what to do.